What's up, Paleo FX crowd? Keith Norris back again, and we are in the final days. I'm talking days to Paleo FX, and we're hoping to see every one of you here in Austin, Texas. We're bringing in the great weather right now. We just had some rainstorms blow through, but that'll probably be the end of it. The weather's great. Everybody's ready to rock and roll. The Palmer Center is up and ready to rock and roll. The Paleo FX team is working, can I say, overtime? Yeah, I can say overtime. They're working way overtime. Let me ask you a question. If you're an athlete, or if you're not an athlete, maybe you've just been in an accident, maybe you've had nagging pains that you can't figure out where they come from, why they're there. Let me tell you a quick story. This year, I had a knee problem. I roughly hyperextended my knee while I was sprinting. For the last 4 years, I've been doing different methodologies to try to rehab my knee. And all of these methodologies worked up to about 95%, but I couldn't get full resolution, couldn't figure out what it was. No one could figure out what it was. And I thought, well, hey, I'm an old dude. I'm getting older. And maybe this is what I'm going to have to live with. Maybe. I happened to see a Egoscue specialist here in Austin, Texas, and within 2 sessions, full resolution of my problems. Absolutely full resolutions. And I say, is that coincidence? I don't know. The same thing happened 20 years ago when I initially went on the paleo diet and had elevated blood pressure, went on the paleo diet for 2 weeks, and then blood pressure problems vanished. Coincidence? I don't know. But I have a cause and effect relationship with both of these methodologies. And here to talk more specifically to the Egoscue method is Paleo FX speaker, Mr. TheBrian Bradley. Brian, how you doing, sir?
Good. Hey, that's such a great story. And it's one of those things I keep telling my therapist that please don't ever get tired of that person's story, even though I've heard literally tens of thousands of people over the last 30 years at Egoscue. So when they call in and say, like what you say, how are you guys doing with knees? Are you good with this? And oh, I've seen thousands of knees. But Pete Egoscue said it perfectly. I haven't seen your knee. So your story is unique, just like everybody listening on here. And what we have to be clear, and what I'm going to be very clear about during the talk and at the booth that we have at the event, is that I want you to experience what pain-free is like. Because a lot of people, I'm over 50, you're probably over what, 35?
Just slightly over 35, yeah.
Okay, 35 plus, that's good. I love getting older. I just love it. So I just announce it. I'll be 60 in 9 years. So thank you. I'm looking forward to 60. And I love the AARP discounts. The idea is that we want to allow people to get older and not experience chronic pain and limitation in their life. And that's what we're going to be giving people. Let me just start by saying I'm wearing these True Dark glasses so you don't see how bad the allergies and stuff are crushing me right now. I just got back from London where we had 10,000 plus with a Tony Robbins crowd. You'll see the last post I put on Facebook of everybody doing the greatest abdominal exercise ever, which I'm going to introduce everybody to at Paleo, of course, because it's a game changer.
Excellent.
And of course, this headset, it's only so I can drown out some of the noise out behind my house with the animals and stuff. We live in a little bit of a country area here, and we have a bunch of dogs running around, not at the house, but my neighbors seem to love to have them running around and causing havoc, which I'm a huge fan of. So yeah, I'm not taking Chick-fil-A orders. You can't supersize anything. This is just to give you a better experience with the noise. But I will tell you, your story is not unique. I mean, it's unique to you, but
Right.
there are people watching and listening and who are going to experience what we're doing at Paleo this year that are going to come out of it and become testimonials just like that because they did the work to become a hip-driven athlete once again. So when you were saying, is it coincidence? How did it happen? My clinic owner there, Rick Mathis at the Egoscue Austin Clinic, what he did is he took a body with you, I'm assuming, because pretty much our blueprint's the same. You have the load-bearing joints of shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles, and they should be vertical. And I'm going to show you some pictures here on my computer to give you some ideas of people that have had these happen. Once your pelvis bails forward and your head goes forward like that, you've basically shut down the psoas muscle, which we call the king. And once that muscle, being the on switch for the core and the stability of the entire spine and lower leg and shoulder and everything, once it's on one side and off on the other, or off on both, and very smartly, your body turns it off. You tweaked your knee a little bit, your body said, I better shut this off
Mhm.
neurologically so that you don't do something stupid and tweak your knee more.
Right.
So the body did exactly what it should. You, through your 95% success, just never really turned the switch back on and reattached the circuit breaker. That's what we're going to do, and that's what you experienced.
I'm going to tell you, it was amazing. So he, he put me through a series of evaluations, some very basic movements. He took some photographs of me standing straight forward to the side, evaluated my stance, which, like you said, was a little skewed, and you don't notice that just walking around in your normal, your normal walking around. You think, hey, I'm standing perfectly upright, shoulders back, everything's just like mom said, standing tall, standing proud. But when you see those photographs of yourself and you see them, I'm trying to remember the name of the software that he uses that take it is perfectly clear. Man, I'm all kinds of, this shoulder dropped, this hip's raised, and then he prescribed for me, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 different exercises. Nothing really. And when I say exercises, they're more like movements. So they're not exercises that tax you; they're movements. And I went through them, and I was like, what is this really doing? I don't know, but 2 sessions with Rick, and I kept up with these exercises on my own. I'm a very compliant subject, and I told Rick, you're going to get compliance out of me, whatever it is. I kept up with those exercises, and like I say, coincidence? I don't know, but knee problem, gone, absent. Back to sprinting, everything's perfectly fine. I don't have those that little reoccurring nagging pain and muscle spasm that I had prior to that. So I'm a happy camper and back to being a happy sprinter again.
So can I ask you a question?
Right.
What did it do for you in your thoughts and in your instincts or your heart? Like emotionally, what did you get out of getting your knee function back? Like, you start thinking, well, as I get older, my body's breaking down. There could be some dysfunction. What did it do for you as it relates to getting in touch with honestly, your balance and your youth again? Because that's very important for a person to understand as a side effect of this, what happens.
Right. So psychologically and emotionally, I can tell you this, it was, oh yeah, I'm not getting older. Age is just a number. Here I am back out with the college kids again. That's because I sprint at the University of Texas, surrounded by college kids. And I do that because I like being in that atmosphere. Just like you said, Brian, I don't want to hang out with the AARP club, right? To me, age is just a number. I want to be out on the field sprinting with the kids. And I want to continue to do that until I just drop off the cliff. That's how I want to live. And that knee injury prior was just bringing me down emotionally and psychologically. I could still function well in the gym. I could still squat okay, but I couldn't do what I really loved, which is getting outside and sprinting now and again. Sounds like such a simple thing, but for me, it meant everything. Not only did I get my physicality back, I got my emotional and psychological groove back.
Which I think is actually more important. Look, the symptom can go away very quickly. Even if you read the pain-free book or something like that, symptoms are just symptoms. They're warning signals. And that's what really attracted me to Pete Egoscue's work 30 years ago when he said, listen, Brian, I was standing with my feet real wide, arms crossed like this, and I'm listening to it. And I'm like, I'm not a closed-minded person. So everybody would say, oh, you're closed-minded. You don't want to learn. It's not it at all. This is where I went for stability. Right. My arms felt so heavy when they hung down back in the quote bodybuilding days of the 90s. You don't want to see any of those pictures. And because my base would go so wide, like a pyramid that never falls. Yeah, I was strong out here, but I was not strong at the Leaning Tower of Pisa position.
Right.
When you're nice and thin like this with your stance, which is why I'm going to run you through if you don't mind, even I'll give these guys a little taster of one of the exercises
Mm,
that we'll do and how quickly it affects their emotional response, not only just their balance and physical response. And it's so simple that I know they've seen it probably on hundreds of videos that we have on social media at, whether you're on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, if you're at the Egoscue sites or mine, it's basically to really get someone to get out of their head and into their heart. And that's the dirty little secret about a book like this or the presentation. I get in there and
right.
say, live pain free, become a hip driven athlete, find your psoas, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, it's all BS. Because if you really understand by the end, these are the easy things to have happen. But once you tap into the why of you hurt and I'm bent, not broken, and
Mm,
you walk somebody through that, let them tell their story and then let them create a new story, just like creating a new nervous system pattern, because you're not changing an old pattern. You're actually having to recreate a new one. You can't just go in and mend this
right.
because your body has these patterns it wants to go back to, which is why you brush and floss the teeth you want to keep.
Hmm.
We give you the floss for your bones and your muscles, your joints, your fascia. And that all comes down to one thing: wake up the king, which is that psoas muscle, which is the on switch for your core, what people know as your core, your pelvic floor work, the way your foot hits the floor. I mean, it's going to be an amazing change.
Can I? Can you talk a little bit about Pete Egoscue for people who might not know who Pete Egoscue is and how he came to this methodology?
Yeah, listen, I got lucky coming out of university. I was heading out of exercise phys, exercise science, athletic trainer with a nutrition minor, which means I know just enough to be dangerous about nutrition. I found a way to make pizza paleo. We'll explain that later, but I know you guys are doing that too. The idea is I ran into this guy who had a Marine Corps background and came from a place of, I'm injured. I went to this specialist, this specialist, this specialist coming out of Vietnam. Well, we all know that the Vietnam conflict and war was not a pleasant thing for any of those guys. So the worst thing would be to come out of it with so much chronic pain and what people now know as PTSD.
Hmm.
And he said, wow, this is going to be my life. This isn't very compelling. So after he flips the guy's desk over who told him all the pain was in his head, he's an angry Marine at that point.
Right.
And you don't want to be around an angry Marine. So he had to become a little happier and picked up Grey's Anatomy, basically in his mind, looked at the pictures, memorized what was going on. He has this ability to do that visually, put two and two together and fixed himself coming out of Vietnam, and then started working on his Marine Corps buddies. And then we think the method was born in 1971 when he decided, okay, I've got to do this myself. I've got to help these guys. And then eventually bought a Volkswagen van when he retired, broke it to his family that he wasn't going to be in the Marine Corps forever, and started doing a milk run in San Diego, just going to people's homes who were in chronic pain. And the whole thing just went from there with, listen, I'm not saying this to be braggadocious or anything,
Mm.
but I have about 15 clinics that are online to come on as new clinics around the world, and 25 or more in the US, with 2 in Mexico and 2 in Japan now. And listen, I only tell you that with this book selling over 4 million copies because it's so real and it's so authentic, which is one of the main reasons why I'm here. Pete Egoscue and I were having dinner with Tony Robbins about 6 months ago. And I only mention that because Tony's one of these guys who can sniff out authenticity and loyalty
Hmm.
from anywhere. He's a master at language and listening. And so is Pete. And they've been friends for so long. And consequently, from there, I've become very good friends with both of them in a great way. So I can't really say consequently, but they've had to be friends with me, which might be where the consequences are in. But when you start seeing and experiencing what these guys have experienced, where Tony fell off a horse and I got him on his first visit with me, had no idea who this guy was at 6'7" with some serious back pain, and then giving him a way out of it, which is why, I travel the world to do these things with them.
Bless you.
I'm so sorry. These are crushing me right now. The idea of introducing people like that via Pete's work with our clinics and where we're focused, it's now a fun time with Egoscue. Not that it hasn't been over 30 years, but now we're really, really looking at momentum.
Right. Do you, Brian? Do you
So
do a
sorry.
number of shows with Tony Robbins?
Yeah, we do. I present main stage at 6 of the Unleash the Power Within. 2 weeks ago, we had LA, 15,000, 10,000 in London, Australia, Singapore, which will be well over 12,000. All the life masteries. We did the Bulletproof Upgrade Labs event a week ago.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I know you have Dave on as a speaker. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Egoscue or who, what I'm presenting, they can check out his podcast number 429, Mastering Posture Pain Performance, even prior to this event. The cool thing about it is I have some speakers who are out there like, Brian, you present on a lot of the same stuff every event. And I said, yeah, because the purity of the method comes down to one thing. Create a hip-driven athlete, which is what you experienced by waking up your psoas. And I would love the argument when somebody says, and I'm very nice about this because I'm just a nice guy, but because they want to argue the point, can't be just about that. What about the serratus, the trap? Hey, they're not less important. They're just part of the secondary and tertiary muscular system. Without this on, they become compensatory movers. And I'm done with people moving with their compensation muscles, literally done. So we're again rewriting this entire movement pattern stuff, introducing people to corrective exercise 30 years ago. And now I see everybody and their mothers doing it. Postures hit the mainstream. And I love it because that was our goal, because there wasn't enough of Pete Egoscue or myself and other therapists to go around.
Right. I'm going to tell you what, I wish that this method had been known by my coaches back when I played football in college, because I guess we were advanced for that time, advanced enough to have chiropractors on staff. But as far as corrective exercises, like, corrective evaluation and exercises like, that's contained within the Egoscue method, that would have been such a boost to us. It would have been such a boost to me personally, because that is football, is playing with all these nagging injuries and compensation techniques, I guess you could call it, that the body has to go through to get you from injury to injury to injury to continue to play effectively. Not at 100%, because nobody is 100% after the first game, or even after training camp, nobody is 100%. But the reason you're on the field is your body has found a way to compensate better than the next guy. That's essentially what it comes down to.
That's exactly right. And that's why injuries in the NFL are, say, every 3 years, everybody's like, oh, that's the average. If you make it above that.
Right.
Well, my football player group that we work with, they're averaging 10 to 15 to 20 years, which they're very happy about on their bank account. But more importantly, I'm happy about on their brain account.
Right.
Because I've said in different meetings, which I'm going to change this because not a lot of people are very happy with it, but I know that we've cured CTE. The NFL just doesn't know about it yet. They've got to stop looking up here, and it's not their fault. And I really believe the CTE doesn't start with the NFL. It starts at the NCAA level, where the kid feels like his scholarship's going to be taken away if he reports something.
Right.
Whereas, and the helmets are so much better, but are they really better when the kid doesn't feel stuff?
Right.
Versus you and I played back in the day where, and my dad played with leather helmets and had tryouts with the Steelers and the Colts and all that stuff. No face mask, which probably is why he had the face that he did.
That's not my excuse, by the way.
Oh my! So you and I played with. We actually had face masks, so we have no excuse for this. But ideally, we played with helmets that once you took that ringer, you never led with your head or face again.
Right.
Whereas now it's so good. These guys are missiles. They're unbelievably bigger, faster, stronger.
Right.
But they're also more dysfunctional as it relates to their upper back being so non-connected to the pelvis. And if your pelvis is off, there's no stability for the rest of the body. And the analogy I'll give at the show, I'll have somebody sit down, have them sit a certain way, and I'll have this big guy bring the smallest other person, hopefully female, come up in the room and just push him over.
Right.
And she's going to be like, wow, that's so easy to move him. Once I engage something in his pelvis a different way and move his rhomboid versus his trapezius muscle doing the work, engage that rhomboid, which I know he can't walk around like that, but it's just when we facilitate that, then she hits him again. It's like trying to move a tree. So the analogy is in a hurricane, the tree that gets unrooted is because there was so much perturbance up here and no root at the bottom that was stable. That is an analogy for the human body, where the concussion becomes CTE. cerebral
Right.
spinal fluid caught up on the brain, and there's a kink in the hose somewhere else where that cerebral spinal fluid is pulsed upward, gets caught while it's nourishing the brain, and there's a plug that's clogged down here. We've got to unclog that. One of the coolest parts is that we're going to talk about fat versus fat during this talk. FAT versus PHAT. And I'm not saying that from a rapper perspective. So no, I'm horrible at rapping. But PHAT being part of the word lymphatic. So when someone says, and you know this from the physiology books, I'm going to work out, I'm going to work out, I'm going to work out, I'm doing high intensity interval training. Hey, I'm busting my butt 7 days a week. Why is my butt not busting? And I get so many female customers that walk up frustrated. And I was raised by 3 sisters, so I know how they think. And my job is to get them to break away from eat less, work out more, to work out less more efficiently and smarter, and your lymphatic system will open up at the hip joint, and all of a sudden you're going to drop 2 to 3 pant sizes within a week. And I've seen it. And now I have them as a client forever, because now we're answering the true identity of where the movement pattern problem comes from.
Yeah. And I would just say to people, because I was, got to say, before I went and visited Rick, I was skeptical, because I've seen a lot of people, right? And I've done a lot of different methodologies. And, but I got to say, you have to, it's one of those things that you can be skeptical. Cool. Try it and actually stick to the exercises. That's the other part of it too. There's got to be some compliance on the patient side to stick with these exercises on the daily. But if you do that, I'm telling you, you're gonna see results. Is Rick gonna be at the booth, Brian?
He will be. His staff is going to be helping me out all weekend too.
Great, fantastic staff. If you're in Austin, Texas, that's Rick, and I don't know his website right offhand. Anyway, we can shuttle you there through the booth at Paleo FX. But and if I remember, I'll put Rick's website on the in the comments section down here. Fantastic guy, great staff. They really know what they're doing. And are you going to be doing? I would assume that the staff is going to be doing demonstrations of the various exercises and maybe doing some evaluations of people at the show.
For sure, and I'm also going to have a digital way for everyone at the show, a little card at the table, along with another company that's going to be beside us. I don't know if you're familiar with Align, ALINE. They're these inserts, not orthotics, because I freaking can't stand orthotics. But when they create a metatarsal change, which creates short foot, with which anybody who's familiar with Vladimir Yonda's work, who was a client of mine for 3 years, it'll make complete sense. We're going to have these little cards where you can kind of get your quote posture diagnosis, even though I hate that word, because that means something's wrong when you get a diagnosis.
Right.
I'll call it a posture recognition gift to say, this is what you look like. And I can't stand it when people just say, here's what's wrong with you, and then it'll give you a solution.
Right.
Well, we're all about solutions. So yeah, we have clinics, we have digital therapy, we can see you from anywhere. You know, a huge percentage of our business is done over Skype, in person also, whatever they choose to do. But I'm going to give them a link they can sign up for there that gets them the links to the digital therapy. So when we take pictures of them, they can upload those photographs to us, get our assessment on it, what we think. But coming to the booth, they're going to easily get that from the little card we're going to provide. And it's very important that they see what's wrong, and then we give them a compelling way out of it. Because 80% of the population being visual, you and I can sit here and talk, but without something where they can really feel a difference and then experience it and watch how the different movements affect their change, and then their special case, remember, everybody's special.
Right.
It's no longer special, because they're creating a new movement pattern, a new motor control pattern, and a new story.
Right. And I can tell you the before and after pictures that I had, again, just from those few sessions and the exercises that I was doing on my own, it's night and day. I mean, it kind of boggles my mind that, and again, the exercises aren't excruciating. They're not what you think. They're not, it's not about, how can I say, the exercises being so intense that you think that they would create that kind of change. If I'm verbalizing this correctly, you
said it right. It's so effectively quick. It's so effectively efficient.
Right.
That within, especially when they come to hear us talk, this is not a joke, within less than 5 minutes, there will be a balance change, a foot strike change. And those of you with bunions, bunions are my favorite. I should just have a shirt that says I love bunions, but that would be kind of odd. But so am I. Because the bunion is just a callus on the foot that tells us where your body's inefficient and which hip is actually more inefficient. They're going to be able to affect change in less than 5 minutes, which is what we did on the Bulletproof podcast. I said, look, 4 minutes while your coffee's in the coffee press, that takes 4 minutes for it to sit in the hot water. Let's do 4 minutes of exercises on there. But we're going to come with that same mindset to paleo, because I can't say do an hour and you'll be stoked.
Right.
I'm sorry, you just lost an hour.
Right.
You gained efficiency, but you lost an hour. And when we introduce them to our conditioning program, that's where a lot of these high-level athletes are going to really experience change.
Right. And even now, Brian, I maintain these exercises and I roll them into my warm up before I work out or before I lift.
That's
and
awesome.
I just rotate through those exercises, and I keep up with them. And it's just, I've morphed it. I've taken those exercises into my lifestyle, I guess. I made it work for me, and I made it such that I could continue with these exercises over the long haul. And it has made all the difference in the world, I have to say.
And you know who's the happiest?
Well, me.
Yeah,
maybe.
Michelle.
Oh, yeah.
Michelle's the happiest, because we as men, we go, oh, I'm hurt. Oh,
right.
We're like a professional soccer player that's flopping. Oh, I can't do that because I have this boo-boo.
Right.
That's men. That's why childbirth was not given to us.
Right.
There's no way we can handle it. So the people around us now see the change. They're affected by the change in a positive way. Let me ask you one question, because I know you got to go pretty soon.
Right.
How many people have been hurt by CrossFit?
Oh my God, countless.
So let me ask the question again, and I'm only going to do this so the listeners can really understand this.
Right.
How many people have been hurt by CrossFit?
Right.
Or did they take the wrong alignment into CrossFit?
Right. Exactly. Right.
And listen, I'm not a CrossFit owner. I've never even been in a box to go train there.
Right.
But we've got to change the mindset, and I'm on a personal mission to save that company from that BS that's out there, because those coaches who are well qualified, I'll say most of them are well qualified. I'm sure, just like any business, there's some jokers, but we've got to get the people to realize the body they take to the workout is the reason why they get the results they're looking for.
Right.
Or they don't get the results they're looking for. Like the person who's busting their butt in the gym, they lose weight from the waist up. Thank God the bathroom mirrors from the waist up, because they look amazing. But from the waist down, hey, what's going on? And that's that lymphatic blockage too.
Right. This is all fantastic. And since you follow professional football and college football as well, I'm assuming you probably remember when RG3 came out of Baylor.
Yep.
And I remember at the combines there was I'm on a number of strength and conditioning groups, and I remember there was a photo taken of him at the combines of him vertical jumping, and his knees caving during it was either a vertical jump or a broad jump or something. It was either a jump landing or a jump takeoff. And the picture was taken just such that you could see his knees caving in. And I remember people saying, that's a knee injury waiting to happen. He's not going to last 2 years in the NFL. And, unfortunately, one of the finest gifted natural athletes, I think, to come in a generation, exactly, he didn't last because...
I'll give you an even bigger one. Go look at the fastest 40-yard dash ever run in the combine, which was a 4.22 by John Ross. I'm in the NFL team that we work very closely with. Oops. And they're sitting there looking at him a couple years ago, and man, this guy's fast. And we're like, take a look at this picture. When his right leg hits the floor and his left leg hits the floor, left leg's like this, right leg's back here turned out, won't even go up behind him. When the right leg's coming forward, it's turned completely out like this. So we said, look, don't touch him. But then the Bengals got him. I got a hold of the strength coach and said, friend of mine, I said, look, I'm willing to help out. Didn't hear back. Not his fault. He's busy.
Right.
The kid didn't last 3 games before an injury, but has an $18 million guaranteed contract. It's not the kid's fault either, because he's listening to people around him, but they're strengthening the dysfunction underneath him.
Right.
He doesn't need more strengthening. He needs repositioning.
Right.
And the same thing with this, with RG3, when you think about that kind of stuff, that was exactly right. I watch these guys walk and they go external in their femur and valgus at their knees like this.
Right.
And somebody says, well, it's because his knees are collapsing. Let's put a strap around his knees and have him do squats with his knees pulled apart. No offense to them, but it's going to sound offensive. That's the most brain dead line of thinking I've ever heard. It's a nice attempt,
right.
But you've got to get the hip. And I'm not talking the outside of the hip. This collapse in is not an abductor problem. It is a psoas problem, which causes the glute to overfire and then become inhibited. So I say, wake up the king, or the queen is very unhappy. And then there comes the problem of they get like this in the gym, and then that even becomes worse because now they're so unstable down below, and they're so much bigger, faster, stronger up above with no base underneath them.
Right. This is all fantastic, Brian. We could talk for hours, I'm quite sure. And I'll probably, well, there's no probably about it. I know I'm going to be hanging out by the booth and we're going to talk shop quite a bit while during the show. So make sure you come to Paleo FX. Brian's talk is pain-free, the truth about human movement. Brian, feel free to show your book for folks who might want to order that. Bam. And let me tell you,
pain-free for women book, but that's doing more reproductive stuff.
Right. And I'll tell you, as someone who has utilized the Egoscue method, I'm a believer. I am certainly a believer. I think the methodology is fantastic. And Brian, I cannot wait to see your talk. I can't wait to hang out at the booth. And I need to get back into Rick to get a follow-up tune-up, because I'm sure about the human condition is you're going to pick up kinks in the armor, especially if you are like me and you continue to push the limits of your physiology. I mean, that's just part of it, and it's good upkeep. It's smart upkeep. It's the same type of upkeep that you would get through recovery methodologies. You look out for your sleep. You make sure you get plenty of sleep. You make sure your nutrition is dialed in. You need to make sure the mechanics of your body are proper as well, and the alignment is proper, and everything is firing. And again, like Brian said, the lymphatic drainage is huge. It's a huge
I will
portion
tell
of it.
you, anybody who's thinking, and this will just be a good promo for you guys, but anyone who's thinking about, should I go to this event, you need to kill the word should and just get there, either on live stream or in person, because JJ Virgin, Dave Asprey, Paul Chek, Greenfield, you have so many, Perlmutter speaking. I mean, come on. You've got to realize that the people that you have on site there are absolute game changers. And listen, it's my privilege. Honestly, it's a privilege of mine to be one of the speakers. Thank you so much for bringing us in, because the message is so strong from us, and I'm just glad to be a part of all the experts that are coming.
Fantastic. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you for dropping all those names. And, really, you would pay as much per ticket to see any one of those individually, right? At that cost, in 121 speakers this year, Brian. I mean, It's Michelle swears every year, I'm going to keep it under 100 this year. It always creeps up because there's so many awesome people. We're like, no, we've got to figure out a way to get them in. No, we've got to figure out a way to get them in. And it always creeps up to in this year, 121. So,
well, listen, that was exactly right. When this whole thing came on, I'm going, hey, bring me in for a speaking engagement, put me on a panel, put me on this, put Paul Chek and I in the same room. Let's have that argument a little bit.
Right.
It would be fun talking together, because the mindsets are the same, the body's a whole and all that kind of stuff. But it's, I understand you guys, there's so much good content out there. So I'm here to help. Anything you need, we're here to help from Egoscue.
All right. The only thing we don't have, Brian, is a fire walk. Maybe we need to get that going too.
Well, you don't want me doing anything like that, because people walking, if I have anything to do with it, they're all coming about their third-degree burns. Tony's the expert in that.
Okay, well, we'll hold off on that till we get Tony to come to the show. All right.
Sounds good.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Make sure, number one, get yourself to Paleo FX. Get yourself to Austin, Texas here on the 26th of April. That's when we're kicking this whole shindig off, the 26th through the 28th. Make sure you're in town. Make sure you go see Brian's talk and slide by the booth. You want to know about this technology. I'm telling you, it'll change your life, man. It will absolutely change your life. Brian, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right, gang. Peace out until we see each other again.